The answer is
that
education.
is no longer the case.
The answer is education, isn't it? If there is, as the government says, if there is going to be computer access for everybody in the country, or everybody who wants it in the country, then you're going to educate people up to the level of everybody else, aren't you?
The 20% of our population are functionally illiterate. They can't read, they can't write, they can't add up. The idea that these
so they
people,
don't work in this society, never mind
now
tomorrow.
When the industrial age came about, when the agricultural age changed into industrial age, what you changed was one form of physical labor for another. Now the information age requires intellectual labor. This is a belief that somehow education can raise the standards, that somehow it's the software.
Well, if it
that
can't,
matters.
what can?
That's
if education
the problem.
can't raise the
What we're going
you're
to
in
see
education.
a polarization
you're a professor of information.
But it's
systems.
an elitist institution.
And you're happy about that?
Personally, yes. I'm an elitist. And I don't mean an elite in the old sense, where you've got these sort of old aristocrats. These are irrelevant. I mean elite in terms of talent. And this talent can be sold on the new electronic media.
Discrimination on the grounds of ability.
On ability, yes. Totally. We won't need passports, you just need credit ratings. Every country will accept you if you have talent. And if you have no talent, you're just a liability. Because we're seeing a situation where individuals are evaluated. Do you add value to a society, or do you take it away? And if you have a right-sized society, it means that there's sufficient wealth-generating people in society to actually make that society wealthy. If there's too many, if it's wrong-sized, if there's too many people that do not add value in this new information age, then the only way is down.
If you're right, what happens to those people?
Then what we find is society's polarizing. And they will find some form of philosophy of difference. It will be a religious difference, a political difference. They will circle the wagons around philosophies of difference. We will see a lot more racism. We will see a lot more antagonism between groupings. Whereas the hotspots are very cosmopolitan. You know, they thrive on variety, but only the very best.
But you're going to have, you paint this picture of literally people who are in the rich areas, in their hot zones, or smart regions, which I think you also called them, actually behind fences, while the other barbarians, so-called barbarians,
the old barbarians are outside,
clamouring. You really believe that's going to happen?
Yes.
What's the model for that?
Well, the model is what we have at the moment. We have a first world, second world, third world. Only that is distributed geographically. And we conveniently forget about them in Africa, in South America. But with new technology, the first world, second world, third world split will be exactly the same, but it will be much closer to home. And you can look at Britain, you can look at America. There are large sections of the country that are really third world. They're here already. Go to South Wales.
Not that large, are they? I mean, there are sections of inner cities, for instance.
Exactly.
But those aren't large sections compared to the whole population. I mean, you paint a picture of society basically going down the drain.
Well, no,
whole society is going wholesale down the drain.
What I paint a picture of is the society is getting older. All has to be paid for. The question is who pays for it. Will the wealth creators, are they willing to pay for it, or will they run away? Christopher Lasch, the American liberal, called this the revolt of the elites. What happens is the elites don't stay and pay more and more tax. They get out. And the model of the film industry and the sports industry is here as an example. You don't stay in the country, you go somewhere else where the tax regime is better. Why did the Rolling Stones not put on a show in Britain? Because if they'd come, they would have gone over a certain period of being in the country and they would have to pay a whopping tax extra. So they said, cancel the tour.
They literally cancelled it because of the
taxes. Exactly. And this is what's happening. People now are making financial decisions, commercial decisions, on the basis of the tax burden.
What happens to governments in this scenario of yours?
Governments have got a problem.
Increasingly less power, increasingly less influence?
They've lost the plot.
They've lost the plot in what way?
Well, basically they cannot tax companies because companies employ their people. If people are employed...
They do tax companies.
the vast majority get it all back in grants. You know, BMW got 150 million for not closing down its factory in the Midlands. The Chung-Hua Picture Tube Company was paid 80 million pounds to open a factory in Scotland. It's the small, medium-sized enterprises who get squeezed with the taxes.
And the middle class?
And the middle classes. But the small, medium-sized enterprises are the future. And these are the ones who are being squeezed with taxes. And they are leaving. Germany's got a real problem now. You know, 500 SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises, have left Germany in the last 5 years because of the taxes. The big boys stay there because they know they've got governments twisted around their little finger and they can get the money back off them.
So in the end, governments become irrelevant. So they have much less importance in society. But you're happy about governments having less importance in society,
oh, yes.
aren't you?
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
There's no government like no government.
What about regulation? Or is it just the ethics of the jungle? Is that what's left?
No, I believe
big groups of mafia syndicates controlling the world.
No, I believe in. I'm a libertarian. I'm a libertarian, which means I believe in a policed state, not a police state.
What's the difference?
There will be taxes, but those taxes are used to pay for the police, and pay for the military, pay for public health. And the only role, these are the guardians in society, and the only role of government is to guard the guardians. So there must be taxes, and people willingly pay taxes for when they see the benefit. But when they see it being used to buy votes for degenerate politicians, they get very upset. When the politicians use the money from taxes to pay for health and welfare schemes, whose sole purpose is to get them loved by the population who vote them into power, this is a vicious circle that ultimately will degenerate society.
You teach this message at the London School of Economics?
I teach this message at the London School of Economics.
How does it go down with your colleagues?
It's not quite the third way, but it's the only way.
How do they react to that? They don't like it, do they? A lot of them don't like it.
I'm a teacher, and I try to get my students to think for themselves.
You're politically incorrect, aren't you?
I am politically incorrect, but my pedagogical style is to rattle the cage. I believe in the Socratic method.
Which is?
A teacher is there to corrupt young minds. You have to get them to question the present. You've got to get them to question the status quo. They can't move on until they deny what they believe in. And so it's my role to get them...
Or find reasons as to why they believe it.
And they have got to defend why they believe it.
So you break them down into little pieces.
I simply say, defend it, argue with me, tell me I'm wrong.
About the basics of society.
About the basics of society. And don't give me arguments which are just mere sentimentality.
90% of your students are foreign. Why?
Yes. Well...
Are they better than British students? Are they more qualified?
I can tell you the quality of the essays is superb. And the students I have are excellent. So we're doing something right. They are very, very good students. And so I want to keep doing what we're doing.